You're all welcome to today's deep news analysis. This is serious. This is not gossip. This is about justice, law, and how Nigeria is being watched by Africa and the world. If you want to know what is really happening with Nnamdi Kanu's appeal and why it matters for Nigeria, stay with me till the end. Before we go deep, subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss updates on high-profile news like this. Now, let's dive in. It all started when Ghana's President, John Mahama, made a bold call. He asked for full monitoring of Nnamdi Kanu's appeal at the Court of Appeal and urged President Bola Tinubu to ensure that the rule of law is respected. That statement alone shook many people. It was a reminder that Africa is watching. Now, the story has taken a new turn. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has come out to back Mahama's call. Ramaphosa's position is clear. Justice must be fair, transparent, and independent. He emphasized that legal proceedings, especially high-profile ones like Nnamdi Kanu's appeal, must not be influenced by politics or pressure. This is serious because Ramaphosa is a respected African leader. When he speaks, governments listen. The combined call from Mahama and Ramaphosa sends a strong message. Nigeria is under continental observation. Every step in the appeal process will now be scrutinized. This is not about opinion. This is about legal credibility. This is about how Nigeria handles justice under the eyes of Africa. Let's break it down further. John Mahama's original statement was carefully worded. He did not criticize Nigeria directly. He did not make political threats. What he did was call for supervision, transparency, and adherence to law. This is important because it frames the issue as a legal and constitutional matter, not a political one. Mahama is saying clearly, the appeal court must operate without interference. Every citizen, no matter their status or position, is entitled to a fair trial under the law. Ramaphosa's backing amplifies this message. South Africa is one of Africa's most influential nations. When Ramaphosa supports Mahama's call, it signals that this is no longer only a bilateral concern between Ghana and Nigeria. It has now become a continental issue, a matter that reflects on African governance and justice. Analysts point out that this dual backing has multiple effects. First, it pressures Nigeria to adhere strictly to legal standards. The appeal process cannot be rushed or manipulated without risking criticism from powerful neighbors. Second, it reassures observers that African leaders are watching over the fairness of legal processes in member states. It is also worth noting the timing. John Mahama made his statement shortly after Nnamdi Kanu's appeal was filed on the 4th of February, 2025. Ramaphosa's support followed quickly, creating a sense of urgency. Together, these statements signal to Nigeria and its leaders that Africa expects a transparent judicial process and that the rule of law must be respected. This combined attention from two respected leaders has shifted the narrative. What was initially seen as a domestic legal issue is now recognized as a matter with diplomatic and continental implications. Governments, legal analysts, and international observers are all paying attention. The message is clear. Legal institutions in Nigeria must function independently. They must operate without political influence, without external pressure, and without bias. This is essential to maintain national credibility and to demonstrate that justice is not selective. Even citizens within Nigeria are reacting to this development. Many see the statements from Mahama and Ramaphosa as a reminder that legal processes are observed, not just internally, but internationally. The message resonates because it confirms that fairness and law are being monitored beyond national borders. It is also important to highlight the tone used by both leaders. Neither Mahama nor Ramaphosa attacked Nigeria or its leadership directly. Instead, they emphasized responsibility, transparency, and adherence to law. This professional approach adds weight to their call, making it harder to dismiss as political commentary. The implications of their statements go beyond this specific case. High-profile appeals like Nnamdi Kanu's are watched closely because they set precedent for judicial independence. How the appeal is handled will send signals to other cases, to institutions, and to citizens across Nigeria and Africa. John Mahama's original call, supported by Ramaphosa, also raises awareness about Africa's role in encouraging fair governance. It demonstrates that regional leaders are not only concerned with economic or political issues but also with justice, rule of law, and human rights. This moment is historic because it shows that African leaders are willing to speak out on matters of legal fairness, even when it involves powerful neighboring nations. The combined attention reinforces the principle that justice must be seen to be fair, and that international credibility matters. For Nigeria, this is both a challenge and an opportunity. The government and the judiciary now have the chance to demonstrate strength, transparency, and respect for law. Every action taken in the appeal process will be scrutinized, and how they handle it will define Nigeria's legal and diplomatic reputation. The statements from Mahama and Ramaphosa are therefore not just words, they are a call to action. They remind leaders, judges, and citizens alike that fair legal procedures are the foundation of democracy. In conclusion, this dual backing sends a powerful signal. Nigeria is being watched, the appeal process matters, and the rule of law cannot be ignored. This sets the tone for the appeal and for the scrutiny that follows. The stage is set. The focus is on law, process, and transparency. Africa is watching, the world is watching, and history will record how Nigeria responds. On the 4th of February, 2025, marks a very important day in the legal proceedings of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. On that day, Nnamdi Kanu personally filed his appeal against the conviction and sentence handed down to him by the Federal High Court. This appeal is now the main focus of legal attention, both within Nigeria and across the African continent. It is important to remember the facts that led to this point. On the 20th of November, 2025, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja convicted Nnamdi Kanu on multiple charges. Following the conviction, the court imposed a life imprisonment sentence, alongside other varying prison terms connected to the charges. After the sentencing, Nnamdi Kanu was transferred to a correctional center in Sokoto State, where he is currently serving his sentence. His appeal does not change his custody status, but it initiates a legal process that could review, adjust, or even reverse aspects of the trial court's judgment. This appeal is not symbolic. It is a serious legal challenge that addresses questions about the trial, the way evidence was handled, and whether legal procedures were properly followed. Appeals exist in the legal system to ensure that justice is both done and seen to be done. They are an essential part of maintaining trust in the judiciary. At the Court of Appeal, the focus will shift from public opinion and political commentary to legal arguments. Lawyers will present their case by analyzing court records, pointing out legal inconsistencies, and challenging judicial decisions. Every claim will be scrutinized according to law. The court's role is to carefully examine the trial process and ensure that the verdict aligns with constitutional principles. This appeal is also receiving intense public and international attention. With African leaders like John Mahama and Cyril Ramaphosa calling for transparency, the proceedings are being observed not only by Nigerians but by regional and international observers. Every step of the appeal process will now carry extra weight. Legal experts emphasize that appeals do not retrial a case. They focus on reviewing the legal and procedural aspects of the lower court's judgment. This means the outcome depends heavily on the strength of legal arguments, proper interpretation of law, and adherence to due process. Political sentiment or public pressure should not influence decisions. The appeal in this case highlights the importance of judicial independence. Courts must operate without interference from any branch of government or individual. The integrity of the judiciary depends on fair handling of all high-profile cases, and this appeal will test that independence. Life imprisonment is among the heaviest penalties in Nigerian law, and cases of this nature are closely scrutinized at the appellate level. Appeals allow convicted individuals to question the process and ensure that justice was applied correctly. Nnamdi Kanu is exercising a constitutional right available to every citizen. This is standard legal practice and part of the checks and balances in the justice system. Prosecuting authorities are expected to defend the trial court's decisions, showing that the conviction and sentence were lawful, supported by evidence, and aligned with the statute. The Court of Appeal will weigh all arguments carefully and render a judgment based strictly on law. This ensures that the outcome is credible, transparent, and legally sound. The appeal has also reignited discussions on rule of law, legal fairness, and governance within Nigeria. While opinions remain divided among citizens, the legal process provides a structured and recognized path for resolving disputes. Everyone involved, including observers, must trust that the courts will follow procedure and maintain impartiality. What happens in the coming days will set an important precedent. High-profile appeals influence public perception of the justice system, not just for the individuals involved but for society at large. If handled properly, this appeal will strengthen confidence in Nigeria's judiciary. If mishandled, it could raise questions about fairness, independence, and governance. For now, Nnamdi Kanu remains in custody at the Sokoto Correctional Center. His status has not changed, but the legal focus has shifted to the appellate process. Lawyers, judges, and institutions are now under scrutiny as they navigate this complex case. This appeal is not just about one person. It is about how Nigeria enforces constitutional rights, respects due process, and ensures justice under scrutiny. The proceedings will be closely watched, analyzed, and discussed both nationally and internationally. In conclusion, the appeal represents a critical moment for Nigeria's judiciary. It is a test of fairness, legal integrity, and procedural correctness. Citizens, legal experts, and international observers alike will be monitoring how the Court of Appeal handles the arguments and evidence. The coming weeks will define not just the outcome for Nnamdi Kanu, but also how Nigeria's legal system is perceived across Africa and the world. Every argument, every ruling, and every procedure will matter. This stage of the case now goes beyond the courtroom and into the wider arena of governance, law, and national responsibility. With the appeal now active, Nigeria is facing a moment that tests not only legal procedures, but also the strength of institutions. How this process is handled will reflect on Nigeria's commitment to constitutional order, judicial independence, and the rule of law. At this level, the appeal is no longer about public opinion or political loyalties. It is about whether Nigeria's legal system operates as it should. Courts are expected to work without fear, without favor, and without outside influence. That expectation has never been more visible than it is now. Nigeria has always projected itself as a nation governed by law. This appeal is a real opportunity to demonstrate that claim. Every action taken, every legal ruling, and every procedural step will be closely examined by citizens, legal experts, and international observers. The responsibility does not rest solely on the courts. The executive branch of government also has a constitutional duty to ensure that judicial proceedings are free from interference. Maintaining that separation of powers is critical. Respecting the courts and their procedures is essential to safeguard the independence of the judiciary. This is why calls from Ghana's President John Mahama and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa are so significant. Their intervention highlights the need for rule of law and transparency. Nigeria is now under continental scrutiny, and how the appeal proceeds will influence not only this case but the perception of Nigeria's governance as a whole. The appeal also reminds citizens that justice must not only be done, but must also be seen to be done. Transparency in legal processes is essential to maintain trust. Every procedure in the Court of Appeal, every argument considered, and every decision made will reflect the integrity of the legal system. It is important to understand that appeals are a standard part of judicial systems worldwide. They exist to review decisions, correct possible errors, and strengthen the administration of justice. They are not a sign of weakness, they are a sign of diligence and accountability. As this appeal moves forward, it is expected to take time. Legal arguments must be carefully considered, records must be examined in detail, and judgments must be measured and precise. The pace of the process should not be mistaken for inefficiency. Proper justice cannot be rushed, especially in high-profile cases. For Nigeria, the appeal presents both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is to ensure that the process remains independent and credible. The opportunity is to show that the country can uphold law, order, and constitutional principles even under intense scrutiny. The stakes are high. The outcome of this appeal will be watched across Africa and the world. How the Court of Appeal handles the arguments and evidence will shape perceptions of Nigeria's judicial system for years to come. High-profile cases like this set precedents for future legal decisions and influence confidence in national institutions. Within Nigeria, this appeal has already reignited discussions about justice, fairness, and governance. Citizens, legal analysts, and civil society organizations are closely observing the proceedings. They are monitoring whether the judiciary will operate without bias or external pressure. The correctional status of Nnamdi Kanu remains unchanged. He continues to serve his sentence in Sokoto State while the appeal runs its course. But the legal focus has shifted. The attention is now on how the appellate court upholds the principles of law and justice. This appeal is bigger than one man. It is about the credibility of Nigeria's judicial system, the strength of its institutions, and the protection of constitutional rights. Every ruling, every legal decision, and every step in the process will be examined closely both nationally and internationally. In conclusion, this stage of the case will be remembered for how institutions functioned under pressure. It is a test of patience, discipline, and adherence to the law. The world is watching, Africa is watching, and Nigerian citizens are watching as well. The coming days and weeks will define not only the outcome for Nnamdi Kanu but also the global perception of Nigeria's commitment to justice, law, and democracy. Transparency, fairness, and adherence to procedure are key. This is a moment that will go down in history. The appeal process, how it is conducted, and how it is resolved will send a clear message about Nigeria's legal system. The nation has the opportunity to show that justice is fair, independent, and respected. Africa is observing. The world is observing. And the message is clear: the rule of law cannot be ignored.